Over the last few months, I've been building a growing collection of tools for the Left Seat Culture website. They're all aimed at solving those little aviation questions that usually result in opening 6 browser tabs, finding 3 different answers, getting the calculator out, and somehow being even less certain than you were when you started. So today I thought I'd show you 3 of them. We'll look at how much useful load and endurance you've actually got once you put real people in an aircraft, whether renting, buying a share or buying an aircraft outright makes more financial sense, and finally whether flying somewhere for cheaper fuel will actually save you any money. All of these tools are completely free to use. They're available now on the Left Seat Culture website, and I'll put a link to that down below in the description. They're also all very much in kind of a beta stage, so I'm building these myself, I'm using them myself, and I'm constantly changing them as I try and make things work a little bit better. So if you do spot something that's wrong, confusing, or just think, Dale, that's a terrible way of doing it, then please tell me, obviously preferably politely. I'm Dale and this is Left Seat Culture, a channel about flying gear and the culture of aviation. Most of what I cover is related to general aviation, but hopefully it's of interest to all pilots, whatever it is that you fly. So let's have a look at these tools. So one question that comes up surprisingly often, especially with smaller aircraft like the microlights, is can I actually take this person with me? And more importantly, can I take them and have enough fuel to get kind of anywhere useful? Because, you know, an aircraft, especially a microlight, it does have 2 seats, but that doesn't necessarily mean you can fill both of them, fill the tanks, throw some bags in the back and just disappear off for the weekend. So this is what I call the useful load and endurance planner. So for this example, let's use a fictional 500 kilogram aircraft. We've got an empty weight of 286.6 kilos, and I'm going to put our pilot in at 92 kilos. If we add a passenger at 78 kilos, and let's say we've got around 8 kilos of bags and other bits and bobs with us. We'll then give it a fuel burn of 15 litres an hour and allow ourselves a 30-minute reserve. And straight away we can see that the loading actually means the amount of fuel we can carry and therefore our endurance. And that's the bit I wanted this tool to make kind of really obvious, because useful load isn't just am I under a maximum takeoff weight, it's what can I actually do with the aircraft once I've put the people I want to carry in it. Now, if we change, for example, our passenger from 78 kilos up to 100 kilos, and immediately we've eaten into the amount of fuel that we can carry. So there's a very obvious relationship between obviously passenger weight, baggage, fuel, and how long we can actually stay airborne. And there are also different ways of approaching this particular calculation. So rather than asking how long can I fly, what we can say is, hey, I want to fly for 2 hours. What's the maximum passenger weight I can then actually carry? Which I think can be particularly useful if you're planning a trip. In terms of this tool though, there is an important distinction here. This isn't a replacement for a proper weights and balance calculation. Being below a maximum weight doesn't mean the aircraft's centre of gravity is necessarily within its limits, but there is a separate weight and balance tool on the website for that as well. The idea of this tool is deliberately trying to answer the quicker practical question, people, bags, fuel, does the mission we want to do actually work? Now I have done a video similar to this, but it's a question that is quite often asked by pilots essentially is you get your license and you rent an aircraft for a while and you look at kind of what you're paying every hour and eventually you start thinking, wouldn't it be cheaper if I just bought one? And that's a very dangerous stage of being a pilot. So what I've done here is I've built what I call the rent, share or buy calculator. And the important thing here is that I didn't want to simply compare hourly rates, because you might see a group aircraft advertised at £100 an hour and think, brilliant, my rental aircraft is £190 an hour, so I'm saving £90 every hour. Except you're probably not, because you've got the cost of buying the share, you've got whatever monthly fees there are, obviously potentially money is obviously then tied up in that share. And with outright ownership, we've got insurance, hangarage, maintenance, engine reserves, fuel, all the other exciting ways in which aeroplanes turn money into noise. So let's put some dummy numbers into the tool and see what it suggests. So let's say our pilot is going to fly 35 hours a year. The renting costs them £190 an hour, and we found a group share for £4,000 with a £90 a month fixed fee and £100 or £105 an hour when we fly. And then we compare that with buying an aircraft, say, for £45,000. Once we add some sensible estimates for insurance, parking, maintenance, engine reserves and running costs, the comparison becomes, I think, much more interesting, because now we're trying to put all three options onto something approaching a somewhat similar basis. And one thing we can do with the tool is obviously change the hours as well, and this is a bit that I particularly like. So let's say instead of 35 hours a year, we're only actually going to fly 15 hours. The fixed costs suddenly become much more significant. And let's go the other way, and let's say we're going to fly 70 hours a year, and again the economics for this decision changes once again. So the important thing about this tool is it isn't going to tell you, hey, you should go and buy a plane, and it certainly isn't going to explain to your partner why buying an aeroplane is actually an excellent financial decision. Don't go blaming me on this one. You're completely on your own. But it should give you a much better idea of the real cost of each option and where some of the break-even points might be. And of course, money isn't the only consideration. There's availability, flexibility, responsibility for maintenance, whether you want to fly different types of aircraft, and all those things, they all matter as well. But at least with this tool, you've got at least some numbers to start having that conversation either with yourself or with your significant other. Now, before we look at the fuel finder, a quick favour. If you know another pilot, student or aircraft owner who might find any of these tools useful, please share the website with them, or obviously this video as well. They're completely free, and the more people that use them and give me feedback, the better I can hopefully make them. So right, let's talk about expensive liquids. So this third tool is probably one of the more kind of unusual ones. I call it the UK Aviation Fuel Finder. And the initial idea was really simple. Where can I find cheaper aviation fuel? But whilst I was building it, I realised that that isn't actually the right question. Perhaps the better question is it worth flying somewhere else to buy cheaper aviation fuel? So let's say, for example, we're looking for fuel around Gloucester. The tool can show us the prices we currently know about different airfields. But rather than simply saying, this one is the cheapest, go there, we can start looking at whether going there actually makes financial sense. So let's imagine we're buying 60 litres. One airfield is charging £2.40 a litre and another is charging £2.10. So that's 30 pence a litre cheaper. So 60 litres saves us an amazing £18. Absolutely excellent. Except if getting there adds 20 minutes of flying and our aircraft burns 30 litres an hour, we've just burned another 10 litres of fuel. And at £2.10 a litre, that's around £21. So we've potentially spent £21 to save £18. And we haven't even considered the landing fees yet, which might be the most aviation way of saying kind of we're trying to save money. And that's why I wanted the tool to look beyond simply finding the lowest number on a fuel price list. There is, however, a fairly important caveat with this tool. As with any tool, it's only as good as the data we've got within it. And one of the things I discovered while building it is that finding a reliable current source of aviation fuel prices across the UK is actually surprisingly difficult. Some airfields do publish them, but a lot of them don't. And some prices are buried on websites or in PDFs. And obviously that information then can get out of date. So there isn't really one definitive source of truth that I can kind of plug into or scrape to kind of aggregate this data. So the tool shows you information about how current the data is, rather than pretending every price is definitively correct. And you'll see there's lots of stuff that's very out of date. But there's another important part to this tool. You watching this and anyone you recommend the tool to, you can help. So if you've just landed somewhere and you bought 50 litres of avgas, you know something that's generally useful to other pilots, and that is what that fuel actually costs. So then you can go and submit and update that price on the website as well. It only takes a few seconds, And hopefully, if enough of us do that, the tool gets progressively better. Where I can, and the website information is available, and if you share that with me as well, we can automatically update the prices like I have done for Gloucester. But you could update prices for Gloucester, someone else can update it for Kemble, someone else updates it for Halfpenny Green, and the next planning a flight gets better information because of that. So even if you're not using the fuel finder specifically to hunt for cheap fuel, if you do buy fuel somewhere and notice our price is wrong or out of date on the website, please kind of send in the update. It helps me, it helps you, and it will help everybody else who decides to try and use this tool. And hopefully that makes it more useful. So that's just 3 examples of some of the tools I built on the website. There are quite a few more tools on the Left Seat Culture website now. I continue to kind of add them as I think of ideas, or people in the Discord group mention some problems and things. I think a tool might be able to solve it. So there are tools covering things like flight planning, weights and balance, radio call prep, medicals, licensing, currency, and various other bits and bobs that I built because I either wanted them myself or kind of thought, I don't understand why this is so difficult to work out. And again, I've got plenty more ideas, possibly too many ideas if I'm honest. But again, that's also where I'd ask for your help and guidance as well. So as I mentioned, everything I've shown in this video is completely free. You don't need to create an account, you don't need to pay or anything to use these tools. But again, I do want to emphasize that they are kind of beta tools. So I'm actively developing them, and there will almost certainly be things that can be improved or little bugs, even though I've done as much testing as I can. And obviously, particularly with anything involving regulation, licensing, medical requirements, or aircraft operation, you should still check the relevant official information. Don't just trust what my tool tells you, because obviously things get out of date and I'm not a medical CAA person or anything like that. So these tools are intended to make things easier to understand and calculate, but don't replace the CAA, BMAA, aircraft or any official documentation. But because they are beta, obviously feedback is generally really useful. So if something doesn't work, tell me. If something doesn't make sense, tell me that as well. And if there's an option that perhaps I've forgotten, also tell me that as well. And if you can think of a better way of doing something, then definitely tell me. That's one of the nice things about building these myself. I can actually change them, and hopefully building tools and sharing this obviously helps the aviation community as well. And I guess finally, talking about the tooling, I particularly like to know, are there any aviation tools that you think would genuinely make your life easier? Because I can sit here and think of things that I would find useful, but there are pilots, students, instructors and aircraft owners who are all repeatedly solving their own little aviation problems. And it could be something really kind of simple, a calculator or a planner, something that takes the confusing bit out of the CAA guidance and perhaps helps you work through it. Perhaps there's also something for students, something specific for you if you're an aircraft owner, or if you're an instructor, perhaps there's something specific that might be useful for you. Whatever it is, please put it in the comments, and I'm interested in ideas at both ends of the scale, basically. Most of these smaller Left Seat Culture tools I'd definitely like to keep for free, and that's still the plan. But I'm also interested in whether there would be more substantial tools that people would actually be prepared to pay for. And I don't mean putting like a £4.99 paywall in front of a calculator that used to be free. I mean something genuinely substantial that solves enough of a problem that you'd sit here and think, well, yeah, I'd actually pay for that. So I'd be really interested to hear those ideas as well. So as I mentioned, I'll put a link directly to the Left Seat Culture Tools page in the description below. Go and have a play with them. Again, they're free. Try to break them, not break them too much, but tell me what I've got wrong, and most importantly, tell me what you think I should build next, because your annoying aviation problems might end up becoming the next Left Seat Culture tool and having a joint ability to help other people in aviation. So as always, if you found this video useful, please consider giving it a like and subscribe to Left Seat Culture for more GA insights, flying tips, trips, etc. And obviously if you want to carry on the discussion, you can join our Discord. The link's in the description, and again, it's completely free. And I look forward to seeing you there. So until the next one, take care of yourself. I'm really lucky I'll catch you in the next video. But that's it, take care and goodbye for now.